The next person we have up is Meg from Meg Ross Photography. So she is a birth photographer who will be talking about what birth photographers do and why you should consider having one if you're going to be having a baby. Do you see Meg with us?
Meg. Yeah, Meg's here in the house. Shall we promote her?
Yeah, let's bring her in.
Bring her in.
Hi,
Hello.
Meg.
Hey.
Good afternoon. Oh, I love your little background with your logo on it. That's so cute.
Thank you. Being a photographer means that I have lots of Photoshop skills. That's so great.
Well, we're going to let you get to it. So, everybody, this is Meg.
Hey, everybody. I'm Meg from Meg Ross Photography, and I'm here to talk about birth photography today. That's birth, not bird. That happens a lot, and people look at me strangely when they think I'm a bird photographer. And then when I actually say birth, sometimes I get even stranger looks. And the question I usually get asked first is, does that mean you shoot everything? It can, but that doesn't always mean that. So every birth looks a little bit different, and let's get into it. First, a couple things about me. I was born in Washington and lived in Arizona for 10 years. Yes, it was very hot, which is where I founded my photography business. I started out shooting whatever I could get my camera on, weddings, seniors, food, you name it. I probably have a session of that on my hard drive. But I didn't quite find my footing until I found birth. Birth is what energizes me. Yes, it can be tiring to be on call and awake for several hours and spend hours away from my family, but nothing can compare to the exhilaration I feel when I walk out of a birth space and I just walk home just like floating on air. I don't walk home, I drive home, but you know what I mean. It's the best feeling in the world to see a family feel really, really vulnerable in their birth space, and then go to seeing their images when I deliver them and just embracing the raw strength and power that they had during their birth that they didn't see from their side. So getting to show them that is such a great opportunity for me, and it's just so rewarding. I moved back to the Pacific Northwest about 2 years ago with my husband and my daughter to be closer to our family in Washington. I embraced what we call the coffee date hustle, which means that I met with several different providers here in Oregon because I wanted to know everything that I could about the birth climate here. And I was so fortunate to see the abundance of support and options that are here in Oregon and Portland. And so many of those providers are here today and tomorrow speaking here at the Parent Trip. My own daughter's birth in Arizona really shaped the photographer that I am today. Prenatal care was at a local birth center where my husband and I really enjoyed the midwifery model of care that we received. Had a very healthy pregnancy, but when it came time to labor, my birth plan quickly had to accommodate a hospital transfer. I was so thankful that my birth doula had provided childbirth education, as I was aware of every decision that needed to be made in the hospital setting. My daughter is 4 now and still very fiercely independent, and her birth story started out that way because babies don't really care about your birth plan, do they? Sometimes. While my plan went topsy-turvy, I was able to experience both the hospital and the holistic side of birth, and I feel really comfortable in all of those settings. Yes, that means that I have shot in a family's home, I have shot a birth at a birth center, and I've been in a hospital. And I can easily walk into any room and feel really comfortable with all the providers that are going to be there and the birth team and just the space. So your first question when you're thinking about birth photography, when should I start looking at birth photographers and when should I book one? Because each photographer is living the on-call life, as we call it. Most of us only reserve a few spots a month for birth families. It's not uncommon for me to be one of the first people who was told that the family is expecting. I've gotten a lot of pictures and text messages of those fun little pea sticks. I suggest contacting sooner rather than later, especially if you're looking to have maternity images as well, which I usually shoot between 32 to 36 weeks. If you want to wait until the second trimester to book or talk to a birth photographer, that's totally fine. That's what you feel comfortable with. But once you do it, you're going to feel so happy that you've got one big task crossed off of your baby do list, which we all know can be a long, extensive one. The important part of choosing a birth photographer is to meet them in person. Birth spaces are one area where you don't want people around you that you do not mesh with. This will have a direct effect on your ability to focus, relax, and birth your baby. Before you make a decision, get to know your birth photographer, meet them in person, get to know them, see how you get along, and listen to your gut. You'll know if it's a good fit. As part of my process, I love to take my families out for a cup of tea or even an ice cream cone, and there has been some delicious ice cream and coffee. And just get to know their pregnancy journey so far, whether this is their first birth or their second or their fourth. Connecting on a level above client photographer and beginning a relationship of trust and care that transfers into a birth space that is supported, loved, and invested in, this is especially important. Meg, here's your next question. What if I'm having a C-section or my birth plan changes unexpectedly? Birth photography isn't just about getting that shot. It's about documenting the whole of your experience as you labor, deliver, and bond with your baby. Every birth is beautiful, I promise. Every story is going to look a little bit different. This is your birth, and as your birth photographer, I am a supportive member of your birth team. You should feel confident that I will respond to your cues, be respectful of your space and plan, and stay out of the way and respect all medical personnel. Whether that's at a hospital or a home birth or a birth center, I am respectful of everyone. If you read my testimonials or ask for references, which I'm happy to share, you will hear something like, I didn't even know she was there, or she was very supportive of my needs. It is important that a birth photographer be knowledgeable about the process of birth and the rules of the hospital or birth center as well. I go where you go. And if this, for some unseen reason, I am not allowed to follow, like the OR for a C-section, this is why I carry a quality backup camera with me at all times, no matter if it's a birth or just a regular family session. I always have my backup camera. I can adjust my camera settings so that your birth partner or your doula can carry it with them and still capture those memories. You might be wondering what's included in my birth package. I've already chatted about my first time meetings, but I also schedule a prenatal consult in the third trimester to really get into the nitty gritty about the birth plan and the images that the families expect. We will go over labor practices that will be used, the shots that birth mom feels comfortable with, and any other important information. I want you to feel confident walking into your birth space and me walking into your birth space, knowing the shots and memories that are the most important to you. My communication doesn't stop there, and I am frequently chatting with mom in the weeks up to labor, usually checking in after prenatal appointments or sending an encouraging quote or even some funny memes. Because sometimes when you've been pregnant for a while, you just need a funny meme. Instead of the people, asking, hey, have you had the baby yet? I know baby's gonna come whenever they want, so I wanna make you laugh. The 24/7 on-call starts at 38 weeks, generally, and goes until baby is born. My on-call does not stop. 38 weeks is a general start, but that can, of course, be adjusted. Like if you were having twins, you might have a different due date that gets assigned to you. So I adjust my on-call time to your expected birth date. On-call means that I have my ringer and my notifications on full blast. Yes, my husband loves that part. And I am available at a moment's notice day and night. I have been called out in the middle of the day during dinner, and it's not uncommon for me to answer the call at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm usually called in during active labor, and we chat extensively beforehand about what can be happening when I'm called. I stay through labor, birth, and 2 hours postpartum. My families are so excited to receive a sneak peek within 24 hours of birth. And I love showing it to them because it's like an immediate, like virtual, like photo high five. You did it. You were awesome. Here's a sneak peek. Galleries have a turnaround of about 4 weeks. I spend a lot of time and care and love with each photo. And they are delivered by hand on a USB because I love to catch up with my birth families and maybe get to snuggle the baby. And because we've become friends and I really want to hear the story from the other perspective. The birth package also includes a professional backup photographer who can arrive in my place if need be. That's standard. And you always get to know who they are ahead of time, and you can of course meet them if that would make you feel a little bit more comfortable. This year, I'm also going to be adding another birth package that includes a storybook, which I'm really excited about because I want my families to be able to flip through these memories and just really hold it in their hands. Which reminds me of something one of my moms told me about birth photography. Rachel said, "It is worth the investment. You will go through the birth photos every year on your child's birthday, and the moments will be just as real and raw as the time that they happen because you have photos to look at." Just in case you're wondering about my pricing and my other packages, I also do Fresh 48 and Golden Hour sessions, which means that I can arrive after birth, either immediately postpartum or up to 48 hours post in the recovery space. If you are somebody who doesn't feel comfortable getting all of that nitty-gritty out there and you would rather just have the connection and all the little details documented. My time is almost up, so I want to leave you with a little quote from one of the world's biggest birth photographers, Monet Nicole. "Hiring an experienced birth photographer isn't cheap, but remember, your birth photos will be one of the greatest treasures of your life. Your birth photographer will be on call for you 24/7 for weeks. She'll leave birthday parties, holidays. She'll wake up at 3 a.m. to sit with your family for hours. She'll bring thousands of dollars worth of equipment. She'll move through your birth space with grace and skill. She'll capture the big moments and the small moments. She'll edit each of your images carefully. She'll weave together your story, a story you'll hold on to for the rest of your life. Hiring an experienced birth photographer is worth it, I promise." I might have one moment. Let's see, hold on, I had some questions. Oh, thank you for sharing your birth story. You're welcome, Danielle. It's a really fun one. If you ever meet with me in person, I'll tell you the whole thing. It's a doozy. And the storybook is a great idea. Thanks, Danielle. I appreciate it. I'm going to
really
share.
quickly, Meg, before you go,
Yes.
Can you, a storybook, do you mean like an album or do
Yes.
you mean, okay.
Yeah, like an album book.
Cool.
Can I share my screen for like 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Oh, I get to choose which one. I've got like a home birth gallery here. With COVID-19, birth photographers are still being called for home births and birth center births. And this is something that I offer. So I kind of threw up a little gallery so families could see really quick what a gallery can look like. This was a super conservative family, so you're not going to see anything too crazy, I promise. This is one where I got there super early in the morning. I started out with some flash, which is what I bring with me to every birth because lighting can be pretty crazy at any birth. No one birth has the same kind of lighting because babies happen at all different types of day in different settings.
All right. I am realizing that we are 1 minute from our next speaker.
Okay. Woohoo! If anybody wants to contact me on my website, I can send this gallery to you, or a home or a birth center birth, or a hospital birth.
That's awesome. Thank you for offering that, Meg.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us today. It was great to hear from you.
Yay, thank you for having me.
All right. I am going to throw Meg's info up real fast so you all can grab it before we move on to Liz from Rose City Midwifery.
I loved getting to hear about just the birth photographer experience. Obviously, it overlaps some with my personal experience as a private doula, the 3 a.m. phone calls and all of that. But it's just, it's just such a different job to try and document that day for someone and let them relive it outside their body.